Welcome to the second module on ideology, culture, and government. This module is going to focus in on the change nature over the last 10 years in the United States, and going to rely pretty heavily on some data that comes from the Pew Research Center. They've done some research over the last 15, 13 years or so. Fortunately, the last time that they produced this was in 2017, so it's a couple of years old. But I think it's suffice it to say that there's probably not been any change, if not gotten worse since then. So take a look at some of the older data and then come back and update it with some additional research from the Pew Research Center about how Americans feel about people that are of the other political party. So just to start, we see from 1994 through 2017, a very gradual erosion of the median voter. Now, when we talk about the median voter, we're talking about the person smack dab in the middle of the amount of voters in the United States. And what we see is that in 1994, the median voter was a bit center-right. And then again, you see in 2004, slightly towards the center. And now, in 2017, the latest time they did this survey was a little bit kind of center left in the United States. But the thing to take a look at in these is that the kind of bell curve that we see here in 1994 and 2004 is more or less gone by 2017. So people congregated around the median voter in the United States in 1994 and 2004. What you'll see as you take a look at the image in the right under 2017 is that we've become much more dispersed across the ideological spectrum, and that we've become more consistently conservative and more consistently liberal, and people are not the mean like they were previously. So this is an important thing to be able to understand that Pew has pointed out in their research over time. Now, this also shows that we have been changing ourselves as far as the average Republican or median Republican and Democrat as well. So if we take a look at the study in 1994, we'll see that, the median Republican was a bit center-right, the median Democrat was a bit center-left, and more or less the same profile as we get to 2004. What you've seen then is the change over that 13 or so years since their 2004 survey to 2017 is that now all of a sudden we've become far more polarized. You see that the median Democrat has moved farther left and the median Republican has moved farther right. And there's been that erosion of the people that are in the center. And we no longer find that kind of common ground around the median voter. This shows us how much we've been differentiated by political party in the United States and how ideologically consistent we've tended to become. So the top is the percentage of Republicans that are to the right or more consistently conservative than the median Democrat. So we saw about 64% of Republicans being to the right of the median Democrat in 1994, grew a little bit to 70% in 2004, but by 2017, 95% of Republicans were more conservative than the median Democrat. And so the parties have really switched. We see very similar things when we take a look at where the median Republican would fall in a relationship to Democrats. So in 1994, 70% of Democrats would be to the left of the median Republicans, 68% in 2004. We get to 2017, and 97% of Democrats are more liberal than the median Republican, right? So very high percentages are, ideologically polarized by political party. Now, one of the things that's concerning about ideology is not just the fact that we've become ideologically different. That may well prove to be fine, but there is some worry about civility and our willingness to be able to look across the aisle and have views of the other party that look at them as people of goodwill or at least of good intentions. And we can see here from more recent Pew Research, taking a look from 1994 to 2022, the percentage of people that have highly negative views of the other party. So if you take a look at the first chart there, the percentage of Republicans with a very unfavorable view of the Democratic Party grew from 21% in 1994 to 62% in 2022. And just the idea of being unfavorable is much higher, closer into the 90% range. We've also seen a pretty serious growth in Democrats' unfavorability towards Republicans. So if you look at 1994, 17% of Democrats had a very unfavorable view of Republicans. By the time we hit 2022, that's 54%. And again, just generally unfavorable is up in the, the 80 to 90% range. Now, what's interesting here also is, you would think that people that kind of, are hardcore Democrats, Republicans, might well not like the other political party. But we also find that people that are what we call leaners or soft Republicans or soft Democrats also have very unfavorable views. So you can see that 47% of Republican leaners have a very unfavorable view of the Democratic Party, and 45% of Democratic leaners have a very unfavorable view of the Republican Party. So this is pretty widespread among partisans in the United States. Another thing that we see is a differentiation in support for a president based on political party. And if you take a look over at the Eisenhower years, certainly Republicans were more supportive of Eisenhower than were Democrats, but you still saw a pretty high approval rating. So 49% of Democrats approved of the Republican president Eisenhower. And you had 49% of Republicans positively viewing John Kennedy. But we've seen over the years that those kind of those other party approval rating of a president that is not of their party has plummeted. So looking into the Bush years, George W. Bush, only 23%, the average approval rating for George W. Bush among Democrats was only 23%. The average Republican approval rating of Obama was 14%. And then in the Trump years, only 6% of Democrats approved of Trump's performance. And in the Biden years, only 7% of Republicans. So we've started to be less willing to be able to focus on across party lines and believe that the person of the other political party is actually accomplishing things and doing a good job. Again, those unfavorable views of the other party translate then into our views of the person that's in power as president. Finally, a couple of takes on the same thing. Our views of people of the other political party are rather negative, right? So here's 5 characteristics. Being closed-minded, dishonest, immoral, unintelligent, and lazy. So the percentage of Republicans that say Democrats are more closed-minded than them is 69%, and the percentage of Democrats who say Republicans are more closed-minded is 83%. Dishonest. Republicans believe Democrats are more dishonest, 72%. And 64% of Democrats believe Republicans are more dishonest. Immoral, 72% of Republicans think Democrats are immoral, more immoral, and 63% of Democrats say Republicans are more immoral. Unintelligent, that's an interesting characteristic to paint on your opponent. About 50% of both parties believe that the other side is unintelligent. And then there's a pretty broad gap here in the idea of laziness. So Republicans are far more likely at 62% to say that Democrats are more lazy than they are. And Democrats, not quite as much on that, with about 26% saying Republicans are more lazy. Now, again, I'm not going to go over the entire chart again, but what we can see is that it's important to note that some of these characteristics about viewing the other party in a very negative view also translate to people that aren't just hardcore partisans, but also people that lean Democratic or lean Republican. So if you take a look at the bottom of this table, you'll see that sizable proportions of leaners believe that the other political party has one of these negative characteristics. Now, of those 5 characteristics, what's interesting is the rise in the amount of people that say the other political party has 4 or more of these negative traits. So if you took a look at 2016, 30% of Republicans said Democrats had 4 or more of these negative traits, and 22% of Democrats said Republicans had 4 or more. And you see that rise exponentially as we take a look at 2020, just showing again how much we kind of personalize this idea of the other party being not decent people. So 53% of Republicans say that Democrats have 4 or more of these negative traits, and 43% of Democrats say Republicans have 4 or more of these negative traits. So, in a nutshell, these are some interesting statistics that are provided by the Pew Research Center. Their data is always very good. I would advise you to go and check out their polling data. They ask very important questions for us as democracy, and the quality of their surveys is very high. So this gives us a little bit of insight then on the idea of political polarization in the United States.